Welcome back to Bargirl Baddies. Before we get into today's story, drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from, and if you've ever made a relationship decision that seemed perfect on paper but turned into something you never saw coming. And if this story hits home, smash that like button and subscribe for more cautionary tales from the land of smiles. Today's story comes from Jake, a 29-year-old FIFO worker from Perth, who thought he'd found the real deal, a beautiful Thai woman, genuine love, and a chance to live authentically in rural Thailand away from the rat race. Her family welcomed him with open arms. The cost of living was nothing. He could be a king on his savings. 3 weeks later, he was on a flight back to Australia, $15,000 poorer, questioning everything he thought he knew about love, culture, and his own judgment. This is the story of what happens when the Instagram version of rural Thai life meets the reality of roosters at 4 in the morning, being the village ATM, and realizing you're not joining a family, you're funding one. Let's hear from Jake. I'll be honest with you, mate. My life in Perth wasn't bad. It just wasn't anything. I was doing the FIFO thing, fly in, fly out mining work up north, 2 weeks on site, 1 week off. The money was bloody good. I was pulling in over 120,000 a year, which sounds mint until you realise you're spending half your life in a donga room in the middle of nowhere, working 12-hour shifts in heat that makes you feel like you're being slow roasted. The week off was worse in some ways. I'd come back to Perth, and it was like I didn't fit anymore. All my mates from school were married, having kids, buying houses in the suburbs. I got married young too, 24, to a girl I met at uni, Sarah. We split when I was 27. No drama, no big fight. She just said one day that we'd grown apart, that I was never really there, even when I was there. She wasn't wrong. No kids, thank Christ. We sold the apartment in Fremantle, split everything 50-50, stayed civil. She's remarried now. Got a kid. I see the photos on Facebook sometimes. Good for her. I mean that. But after the divorce, dating in Perth felt like a bloody job interview. Every woman I met through apps wanted to know my salary, my property portfolio, my 5-year plan. It was exhausting. And expensive. A decent dinner and drinks would set you back $200 easy, and half the time you'd know within 10 minutes there was no spark, but you'd sit there anyway, making small talk about real estate prices and which beaches were getting too crowded. I started watching YouTube videos in the donga at night. You know the ones. Expats living in Thailand on $1,000 a month. Beach sunsets. Cheap beer. Friendly people. No judgment. Just easy living. I'd watch these guys in their 40s and 50s talking about how they'd escaped the rat race, how they'd found freedom and authenticity and purpose. I wanted that. God, I wanted that so badly. My first trip to Thailand was January last year. I was 28, flew into Bangkok, spent a few days there, then headed down to Pattaya because that's where all the YouTube channels seem to be based. I know Pattaya's reputation. I'm not an idiot. But I wasn't looking for that. I just wanted to see what this life could be like. And mate, those first few days felt like waking up. The warmth, not just the weather, but the people. Everyone smiled. Everything was cheap. A massive meal for $3. A beer for $1.50. I could get a massage for $8. In Perth, you'd pay $80 for the same thing. I met Noi on my 4th day there. And before you assume anything, she wasn't working in a bar. I need you to understand that. She was visiting from her province with 3 girlfriends, just having a holiday. They were at a beach club, sitting at the table next to me. Her friends were loud and laughing, taking selfies, but Noi was quieter. She had this shy smile. We started talking. Well, her English was pretty basic and my Thai was non-existent, so mostly we used Google Translate and hand gestures and laughing at the absurdity of it. She told me she was 25, from Buriram province in Isan, the northeast. She worked at a 7-Eleven back home. She'd never left Thailand. This was her first real holiday. She was beautiful, yeah. Long dark hair, this gentle way of moving. But it was more than that. She seemed genuine, not interested in my money, not trying to impress me, just present, you know. When we talked, she actually listened. She asked about my family, my life, what made me happy. No one had asked me that in years. We spent the next 3 days together. Her friends adopted me into their group. We went to temples, markets, had meals together. I paid for everything because of course I did. I was the foreigner with Australian dollars, but it never felt transactional. It felt like I was just being generous with friends. The night before I flew home, Noi and I stayed up talking on the beach. She told me about her family, her parents who were rice farmers, her younger brothers still in school. She told me about the village, how quiet it was, how simple. She said life was hard there, but people were happy because they had each other. I kissed her that night. She kissed me back, and when I got on the plane the next morning, I already knew I was coming back. We did the long-distance thing for 8 months. Video calls every day. She'd call me from the 7-Eleven during her break, or late at night from her family's house, whispering so she wouldn't wake anyone. I'd call her from the mine site, sitting outside the mess hall under the stars, and we'd just talk about nothing. What we ate that day, what we saw, stupid jokes that barely translated. She never directly asked for money, that's important. It was always emergencies that came up. Her mother needed medication for diabetes, that was 5,000 baht, about 220 Australian dollars. The family's water buffalo died, and they needed to replace it for the farm work, that was another 5,000. Her younger brother needed money for school supplies and uniform, 3,000 baht. It never seemed like much. A couple hundred here, a couple hundred there. I was making good money. What was 200 bucks to me versus what it meant to her family? I wanted to help. I wanted to be the kind of man who took care of the woman he loved. Looking back now, I can see it. The pattern, the conditioning. But at the time, it felt like love. It felt like being needed. In September, she video called me crying. She said she missed me so much, it hurt. She said her family wanted to meet me, that her parents needed to know the man their daughter loved was serious. She said I should come stay with them in the village, not in a hotel in Bangkok or Pattaya, but really see Thailand. Real Thailand. Her Thailand. She said I could stay as long as I wanted. A month. 2 months. Forever. Life was cheap in Isan. I wouldn't need to work. We could just be together. Her family would take care of me, and I'd be part of something bigger than myself. A real family. I sat in my donga that night doing the math. I had about 85,000 in savings. In rural Thailand, where a meal cost $1 and rent was nothing because I'd be living with family, that money could last me years. Actual years. I could take a break from mining, from the heat and the isolation and the pointlessness of it all. I could have a life. Purpose. Love. The fantasy took shape in my head like a movie. I'd wake up in a traditional Thai house, learn the language properly, help out on the farm, drink morning coffee, watching the rice fields turn gold in the sunrise, evening beers with Noi's father, bonding without words, just respect and understanding. The village would accept me as one of their own. I'd be the good Farang, the one who chose authenticity over tourist bullshit. Maybe eventually I'd start a small business, English teaching for local kids, or help the family expand their farm, or just exist, simply and quietly, without the constant pressure to achieve and acquire and impress. I called my mum in Adelaide, told her I was taking a break, going to Thailand for a while. She was worried, of course. Asked all the questions mothers ask. Was I sure about this girl? Had I met her family? What was my plan? I told her I knew what I was doing. I was nearly 30 years old. I'd been married and divorced. I'd worked my arse off for years. I deserved this. She said, okay, but please stay in touch. Please be careful. I gave notice at work. My supervisor thought I was mental. He'd seen blokes do this before. Chase Thai girls, come back broken 6 months later. He tried to talk me out of it. I thanked him and said my mind was made up. The red flags were there. I can admit that now. No, I always had money problems, but never had concrete plans to solve them. She talked about visiting me in Australia, but it was always someday, and when I save enough, even though I'd offered to pay for her ticket multiple times and she'd make excuses. Her English would get suddenly worse whenever we talked about serious things, like she was using the language barrier as a shield. And she'd never clearly explained what her family expected from me, from this arrangement. It was all vague promises, and trust me, and you'll see. But I didn't want to see the flags. I wanted to see the dream. I landed in Bangkok on a Tuesday afternoon in October. The humidity hit me like a wet towel to the face as soon as I stepped off the plane. I took the bus to Bargirl, saving money already, feeling like a proper traveller, not a tourist. 6 hours through Thai countryside, watching the landscape change from urban sprawl to rice fields and small towns, listening to Thai pop music on the bus speakers, eating snacks I bought from 7-Eleven. Noi met me at the Bargirl bus station. She was even more beautiful than I remembered. She threw her arms around me, and I felt like I'd finally come home to something real. We took a Songthayu, one of those converted pickup trucks with benches in the back, out to her village. 40 minutes down increasingly rough roads, past other villages, through countryside so green and alive it didn't look real. Water buffalo in the fields. Kids playing in the dirt. Old women sitting in the shade of their houses. The village appeared like something from a documentary. Wooden houses on stilts, chickens wandering everywhere, dogs sleeping in patches of shade, motorbikes parked haphazardly. Curious eyes watching as the Songthayu pulled up. The foreign man had arrived. Noi's family home was basic but clean, dark teak wood, raised up on concrete pillars, stairs leading to the main living area. No walls separating rooms, just hanging curtains. A small spirit house in the yard, satellite dish on the roof, the one concession to modernity. Her mother came out first. Small woman, weathered face, warm smile. Then her father, thin and dark from working in the sun, suspicious eyes but welcoming enough. The grandmother, ancient and skeptical. 2 younger brothers, teenagers, grinning at the spectacle. An uncle who lived next door. 3 cousins from down the road who'd come to see the farang. They prepared a feast. Some tam, green papaya salad, spicy enough to make my eyes water. Grilled chicken, sticky rice, some kind of fermented fish situation I tried not to think too hard about. And lao khao, the local rice whiskey that tasted like petrol and hit like a hammer. Everyone was smiling, touching my arm, saying things I didn't understand, while Noi translated the basics. Welcome. We're happy you're here. Your family now. I gave her parents the gifts I'd brought from Australia. Chocolate. Nothing fancy but foreign and therefore special. Her mother clutched it like I'd given her gold. Her father nodded approvingly. The brothers immediately asked if they could try some. We ate and drank, and I tried to answer questions through Noi's translation. How long would I stay? Did I like Thailand? Would I marry Noi? Everyone laughed at that one. Noi blushed. I said maybe, and everyone cheered and poured more whiskey. That first night, I slept under a mosquito net in the room Noi shared with her grandmother before I arrived. The old woman had moved to sleep with Noi's mother to give us privacy. Noi lay beside me, her skin warm, the night alive with sounds I'd never heard before. Frogs, cicadas, distant dogs, a motorcycle passing on the road. I thought, this is it. This is my new life. I made the right choice. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I had no idea that in 72 hours, I'd be sleeping on a woven mat on the floor because the bed would be given to a visiting uncle, and that this feast wasn't hospitality. It was an audition I'd already passed. The first few days were honestly magical. I'm not exaggerating. I woke up to roosters crowing, sure, but there was something romantic about it at first. The whole village coming alive with the sunrise. Smoke from cooking fires. The smell of rice being steamed. Kids in school uniforms walking past on their way to catch the Songthayu into town. Noi's mother would already be up, squatting by the charcoal stove making breakfast. She'd smile at me, say something in Isan dialect that Noi would translate as, "Good morning, you sleep okay?" I'd nod and smile, and she'd hand me instant coffee, the sweet kind that comes in little packets, mixed with condensed milk and way too much sugar. I learned to love it. After breakfast, Noi and I would ride her mother's old Honda Wave to the morning market in the next village over. Just a collection of stalls under tin roofs, vendors selling vegetables, fish, meat, clothes, random household goods. Everything cost nothing. A kilo of mangoes for 30 baht, fresh chicken for 60, a whole bag of vegetables for 40. I pay for everything, obviously. Noi's mother would pick out what she needed, and Noi would translate, and I'd hand over a 500 baht note and get change back, and it felt good, generous. 22 Australian dollars to feed a family of 7 for 3 days? That was less than I'd spend on a single lunch in Perth. It made me feel useful, needed. The village kids treated me like a celebrity. They'd follow me around saying, hello, hello, practicing their English, giggling when I tried to say anything in Thai. I bought them ice creams from the village shop, 10 baht each, and you'd think I'd given them treasure. Their parents would smile and nod at me. The good farang, the generous one. Evenings were the best part. Noi's father would sit outside the house on a woven mat, and I'd join him with beers I bought from the shop. Leo beer, Singha, whatever they had cold. He spoke zero English, and I spoke zero Thai. But we'd sit there drinking, and he'd point at things and say words, and I'd repeat them badly, and he'd laugh. Noi would translate sometimes. Her father asking about Australia. Did we have rice fields? Water buffalo. I'd try to explain Perth, the city, the mining, but it was too different, too foreign. So instead, I'd ask about farming, the rice cycle, the seasons. He'd explain through Noi, and I'd nod along, understanding maybe half of it, but feeling connected anyway. The family made space for me in everything. When they watched Thai soap operas on the small TV, they'd gesture for me to sit with them, even though I understood nothing. When they prepared food, they'd show me how to pound papaya for some time, laughing when I did it wrong. When the father needed to fix something on the farm equipment, he'd wave me over to help, hand me tools, include me. I felt accepted in a way I hadn't felt in years, maybe ever. But there were small things. The house had no hot water. Showers were from a bucket and a scoop, and the water came from a big concrete tank that sat in the sun all day, so by evening it was lukewarm at best. The toilet was a squat toilet out back, basically a hole in the ground, and I had to learn real quick to keep my balance. There was no privacy, none. The house was all open space, curtains between sleeping areas, but you could hear everything. Everyone in everyone's business all the time. The grandmother commenting on what I ate, how much, whether I was too fat or too thin. Noi's brothers wandering in and out, cousins showing up unannounced. The uncle from next door treating the place like his own house. The heat was suffocating. October in Isan isn't the cool season yet. Still 35 degrees during the day. The house had fans, but they just moved hot air around. I'd wake up in the middle of the night drenched in sweat, mosquitoes whining near my ears despite the net, and I'd lie there wondering what the hell I was doing. But I'd look at Noi sleeping beside me, and I'd tell myself this was authentic, this was real life. Westerners were too soft, too used to comfort. I could adapt. I would adapt. On day 5, things shifted. Noi's mother asked to speak to me. Noi translated. Her mother's diabetes medication had run out. She needed to go to the hospital in Bargirl to see the doctor and get a new prescription. The medication was expensive. Did I have 5,000 baht I could help with? 5,000 baht, 220 Australian dollars, for medication. For my girlfriend's mother, who had welcomed me into her home, fed me, treated me like family. Of course I said yes. Of course I did. I went to the ATM in the village, the one ancient machine that charged a 200 baht fee per withdrawal, and I took out the cash and handed it to Noi's mother. She pressed her hands together in a way, tears in her eyes, saying what I assumed was thank you over and over. Noi hugged me that night, told me I was a good man, told me her mother was so grateful, told me this was what family did for each other. I felt like a hero. 2 days later, Noi's father's motorcycle wouldn't start. Old Honda, probably 20 years old, rusted to hell. He needed it for work, for getting to the fields, for everything. The repair shop in the next village said it needed a new battery, new spark plugs, some kind of electrical work. 8,000 baht, 350 Australian dollars. Still less than I'd spend on a weekend in Perth. I paid it. The father shook my hand. Solemn, respectful, man to man. The next day, there was a Buddhist ceremony at the local temple. Something about merit making for a dead relative I didn't fully understand. But the family was hosting it, which meant feeding the monks and the whole village. They needed to buy food, supplies, make donations to the temple. Noi explained that normally they'd save for months for something like this. But since I was here, since I was family now, maybe I could help. It would be good karma for me too. For us, 12,000 baht, 530 Australian dollars. I stood there in that hot little house, sweat running down my back, and I calculated in my head, 25,000 baht in a week. Just over 1,100 Australian dollars. Gone. But Noi was looking at me with those eyes. Her family was waiting. The ceremony was important. What kind of man would I be if I said no? I paid it. The ceremony was beautiful, I'll give them that. Monks in orange robes chanting, incense and flowers everywhere, the whole village coming together. People kept thanking me, pressing their hands together, saying things I didn't understand. Noi stayed close, translating the important bits, telling me how much respect I'd earned. But something had shifted in how people looked at me, in how the family treated me. I wasn't a guest anymore. I was the financier, the wallet, the solution to problems. Noi's uncle, the one who lived next door, started showing up every evening to drink the beer I'd bought. Not asking, just helping himself. He'd sit there getting drunk, talking shit in Isan that made everyone laugh. And when I'd ask Noi what he was saying, she'd wave it off as nothing, just jokes. Her younger brothers started asking me for things directly. Phone credit, they needed top up. 500 baht new shoes for school. 1,000 baht. A football, because the old one was flat. 300 baht. The cousins would show up and use my phone charger, my power bank, my data. I'd bought a Thai SIM card with unlimited data because the village Wi-Fi was shit. Suddenly, everyone knew the password and my phone was a community resource. Every meal, every outing, every little thing that came up, eyes would turn to me. Not asking, just expecting. And Noi would translate with this gentle voice, explaining that, in Thai culture, the son takes care of the parents, the family. I was family now. This was normal. This was how it worked. I started to feel it in my chest. This tightness. This sense of being trapped. By the start of week 2, I realized I hadn't had a private conversation with Noi in days. We were never alone. Even at night, the grandmother was on the other side of a curtain 3 meters away. During the day, her mother was always there, or the brothers, or cousins, or the uncle. Always someone watching, listening, commenting. I suggested to Noi that maybe we could take a trip. Just us. Go to Bangkok for a few days, see the city, have some space. She looked at me like I'd suggested we fly to Mars. Why would we spend money on that? We were happy here. Her family would be offended if we left so soon. What was in Bangkok that we didn't have here? I didn't know how to explain that what I needed was her. Just her. Without the audience. Without the constant pressure and performance. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay there doing the math. $1,100 in 1 week. At this rate, my savings would be gone in under 2 years. Not the 5 or 6 I'd imagined. And that was if the requests stayed at this level. What if they increased? What if there were bigger emergencies? The grandmother had started making comments. Through Noi, always through Noi. My Thai was very bad for someone who'd been here so long already. Why wasn't I studying harder? I slept too late. I ate too much rice. I didn't know how to work properly in the fields. My skin was too pale. I dressed wrong. I smiled wrong. I breathed wrong. Noi would laugh it off, say her grandmother was old-fashioned. She didn't mean anything by it. But I could see the grandmother's face when she looked at me. I was an outsider. A foreign body in the organism of the family. Useful for money, but not really one of them. I started sleeping poorly. The heat. The noise. The pressure. I'd wake up at 3 in the morning drenched in sweat, listening to the dogs barking and the roosters starting their pre-dawn screaming, and I'd think about my donga room in the mine. The air conditioning. The privacy. The simplicity of just working and sleeping and not having to perform, being the grateful Farang every waking moment. I was drinking more. Beer every night. Sometimes Lao Khao with the father and uncle, anything to take the edge off, to make the evenings bearable. The village that had seemed charming started to feel claustrophobic. Everyone knew everything about me, where I went, what I bought, how much I spent. I couldn't go to the shop without people watching, couldn't walk down the road without kids following me, couldn't sit outside without neighbours stopping by to stare and ask questions I didn't understand. I was on display. A curiosity. A resource. Noi was changing too. She was distant. Always on her phone, always with her mother or friends. When I tried to talk to her about how I was feeling, she'd get defensive. I didn't understand Thai culture. I was being selfish. If I wasn't happy, maybe I should go home. Did I even love her? Because if I loved her, this wouldn't be so hard. That last part cut deep. Because I did love her. Or I thought I did. I'd quit my job, left my country, bet everything on this. I couldn't fail. Failure meant admitting I'd been wrong. Admitting my mother was right to worry. Admitting my supervisor was right about stupid foreigners chasing dreams. So instead of setting boundaries, instead of having hard conversations, I doubled down. I smiled more. I gave more money. I tried harder to fit in, to be grateful, to earn the acceptance that seemed to slip further away the more I grasped for it. Day 10, Noi's mother needed money for the electric bill, 2,000 baht. Day 11, the father needed fertilizer for the fields, 4,000 baht. Day 12, there was another temple ceremony, 6,000 baht. I stopped counting. It hurt too much to count. The uncle got bolder. He'd take my cigarettes without asking, borrow my lighter, and not return it. One night, he asked me directly for money, 2,000 baht, said he needed it for something important. I looked at Noi. She looked away. I gave him the money. He never paid it back, never mentioned it again. By day 14, I'd spent over 50,000 baht, that's 2,200 Australian dollars, in 2 weeks. And I was just getting started. Day 16 started like all the others. Roosters at 4 in the morning, bucket shower with lukewarm water, instant coffee too sweet. Noi's mother cooking rice, the heat already building before the sun fully rose. But that afternoon, Noi's father approached me. He had Noi with him. Her face was serious. She said her father wanted to talk to me about something important. We sat down on the mat outside, and the whole family gathered around like this was a meeting. The grandmother, the mother, the brothers, even the uncle from next door. Noi translated. Her father spoke slowly, deliberately. He said that having me here had brought the family great joy, that they considered me a son, that they wanted me to stay, to build a life here, to marry Noi properly and give them grandchildren. I nodded. This sounded good. This was what I wanted, wasn't it? But, he continued, the house wasn't suitable for a married couple. It was too small, too old, no proper bathroom, no privacy. If I was going to stay, if we were going to build a future, they needed to expand, add a new room for Noi and me. Build a real bathroom with a proper toilet and shower, upgrade the kitchen, make it a home worthy of raising a family in. Noi's eyes were shining as she translated. She added her own commentary. This would be our space, our future. We'd have privacy finally, a real life together. It was an investment in us. Then came the number. 300,000 baht. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. 300,000 baht. That was 13,000 Australian dollars, more than 15% of my total savings, gone, just like that. But the way they were all looking at me, the expectation, the assumption that of course I would do this because I loved Noi, because I was family, because this was what sons did. Noi grabbed my hand. She said we'd live here forever, raise our children here. This was our home, our investment, we'd be together. Wasn't that what I came here for? I looked around at the faces. The father serious and formal, the mother hopeful, the grandmother skeptical but waiting, the brothers excited at the prospect of a nicer house, the uncle already calculating his own benefit, and Noi. Beautiful Noi. The woman I'd quit my job for, the woman I'd moved across the world for. My mouth said yes before my brain could stop it. The family erupted in smiles. The father shook my hand. The mother hugged me. Noi kissed my cheek and whispered, "Thank you, I love you, we'll be so happy." That night, I sat on my phone transferring 200,000 baht from my Australian account to Noi's, 8,800 Australian dollars. She said they needed that much upfront for materials. The rest would come later, when construction started, for labour and finishing. I watched the numbers disappear from my account, watched my safety net shrink, told myself this was the right thing, this was commitment, this was love. But I couldn't sleep that night. Something felt wrong in my gut, something I couldn't name. The next day, I expected activity, discussions about the construction. Maybe someone measuring the property, drawing plans. Nothing happened. I asked Noi when they'd start building. She said soon. They had to wait for an auspicious day. The monk from the temple would tell them when the timing was right. This was important in Thai culture. You couldn't just start building whenever you wanted. Day 18. Still nothing. No one mentioned the house. Life continued as normal, except now I dropped nearly a quarter of my total savings and had nothing to show for it. That afternoon, I saw Noi's younger brother ride past on a brand new motorcycle. Not an old beat-up Honda. A Yamaha, top of the line, shiny black paint. Must have cost at least 100,000 baht. I found Noi in the house, asked her where her brother got the money for a new bike. Her face changed, closed off. Why was I asking? Why did I care? It was his business. Maybe he'd been saving. Why didn't I trust her family? I said. I just wanted to know. We'd just given a huge amount of money for the house, and now suddenly her brother had an expensive motorcycle, and I was trying to understand how that worked. She started crying. Said I was accusing her family of being thieves. Said I thought they were just using me. Said if I really loved her, I wouldn't question things like this. Said maybe I never understood Thai culture at all. Said maybe I should just go home if I was going to be like this. The mother came in, started yelling in Isan. I didn't understand the words, but I understood the tone. How dare I insult them? How dare I question their honour? After everything they'd done for me, after welcoming me into their home, I backed down. Apologised, said I didn't mean anything by it. Said I was just confused about the timing. Said I trusted them completely. But I didn't. Not anymore. That night, the family gathered outside like they did most evenings. The uncle was there, drunk already. He was talking loudly, laughing, saying the word farang over and over. Farang stupid, farang money, farang don't understand. Everyone was laughing. Noi was giggling, covering her mouth. I asked Noi what they were saying. She wouldn't look at me, said it was nothing, just jokes, just the uncle being drunk and silly. But I saw her face. I saw her mother's face. They weren't just laughing at jokes, they were laughing at me. I went inside, lay down on the mat we'd been sleeping on since the bed got given to some visiting relative I'd never met. And I knew. I absolutely knew the house renovation was never going to happen. That money was gone. Spread out among the family for whatever they wanted. The motorcycle, the uncle's drinking, new phones, whatever. I'd been played. And I'd let myself be played because I was desperate to believe in something. In love. In belonging. In escape. Day 19, I barely spoke. I went through the motions, smiled when expected, ate the food, drank the beer. But inside I was calculating, planning. I checked flights on my phone, Bangkok to Perth via Singapore. 2 days from now, there was availability. 18,000 baht for a one-way ticket. 400 Australian dollars of the money I had left. I didn't tell anyone yet. I needed to think, to be sure. Because if I left now, it was over. All of it. The relationship. The dream. The fantasy of the life I built in my head. But what was the alternative? Stay here bleeding money until I had nothing left? Marry into this? Have kids who'd grow up watching their father be treated like an ATM? Spend the next decade funding everyone's wants, while being told it was culture, it was love, it was family. Day 20, morning. I told Noi I needed to talk to her. Alone. We walked down the road away from the house. First time we'd been alone in 2 weeks. I said I wanted to see the plans for the house, the receipts for materials, something concrete that showed the renovation was actually happening. She exploded, started yelling at me in Thai and English mixed together. How could I ask this? Didn't I trust her? Didn't I trust her family? This was insulting. This was disrespectful. Her father was a good man. Her mother had taken care of me. And this was how I repaid them. With suspicion, I stayed calm, said I wasn't accusing anyone of anything. I just wanted to understand the timeline. When would construction start? What was the plan? She couldn't answer. Just kept saying soon. Why couldn't I wait? Why was I being like this? Why did I have to ruin everything? I said I was leaving, flying home in 2 days. I'd already booked the ticket. The anger dropped from her face immediately. She grabbed my arm. Said no. We could work this out. She loved me. Please don't go. Her family would be devastated. They'd lose face in the village, please. I asked her directly. Was the house renovation ever real? Was any of this real? She started crying. Said of course it was real. But also her family needed help. I had money. They didn't. That's how it worked. The Farang takes care of the Thai family. Everyone knew this. Why was I acting surprised? And there it was. The truth. Not dressed up in culture or love or family values. Just the transaction. I had money. They needed money. That was the relationship. I asked if she ever loved me, or if I was just a solution to her family's poverty. She said it wasn't like that. She did care about me. But also, yes, I could help her family. Why couldn't it be both? Why did it have to be one or the other? I couldn't answer that. Maybe she was right. Maybe it was both. Maybe she'd convinced herself she loved me while also seeing me as the golden ticket. Maybe the two things got so tangled up she couldn't separate them anymore. I told her I was leaving day after tomorrow. The conversation was over. I walked back to the house. The family was waiting. They already knew. The temperature had changed. No more smiles. No more welcoming gestures. The uncle was there, standing in a way that felt threatening. The father wouldn't look at me. The mother was stone-faced. I went inside, started packing my 2 suitcases, put my clothes in, my toiletries, the few things I'd accumulated. Everything else, the gifts I'd brought, the things I'd bought, I left. Noi came in. She wasn't crying anymore. She said I was like all Farangs, come to Thailand, make promises, then leave when things get real. Said I never really loved her. Said I only cared about money. The irony was so thick, I almost laughed. But I didn't. I just kept packing. That night was the longest of my life. I didn't sleep. Just lay there, listening to the sounds of the village that had seemed so romantic 3 weeks ago, and now just sounded like noise. Roosters, dogs, motorcycles, people yelling, all of it. Noi slept on the other side of the curtain with her mother. Didn't say goodnight to me. The uncle stayed over, him and the father drinking and talking in low voices. I couldn't understand the words, but I understood the vibe. I wasn't safe here, not anymore. I was an outsider who'd insulted them, who'd taken back what I'd promised. If something happened to me, who would know? Who would care? I was in a village where everyone was related to Noi, where no one spoke English, where the nearest police station was an hour away and probably wouldn't give a damn about a Farang who'd gotten himself into a situation. I stayed awake all night, kept my phone charged, had the Australian embassy number ready. Probably paranoid, probably overdramatic, but fear is fear. Morning of day 21, Noi's mother appeared. Said she'd drive me to the bus station. No one else came out to say goodbye. Not the father, not the brothers, not the grandmother. Just the mother, dead-eyed, silent. I loaded my suitcases into her pickup truck, took one last look at the house that was supposed to be renovated, the house that was supposed to be my future. A group of kids were playing in the yard next door with toys I'd bought them the first week. They waved at me. I waved back. That part, at least, had been innocent. They didn't know. They just saw the nice Farang who bought them things. The drive to the bus station took 40 minutes. Noi's mother didn't speak, didn't look at me, just drove. When we got there, I got my bags out, said thank you in Thai. She nodded once, drove away. No goodbye from Noi. She hadn't come, hadn't texted, nothing. I bought a ticket for the next bus to Bangkok. Sat in the station watching Thai families come and go, monks in their robes, students with their backpacks. Normal people living normal lives. None of them knowing I'd just lit $13,000 on fire because I was lonely and stupid. The bus ride to Bangkok felt like escaping prison. Every kilometre between me and that village was freedom, but also failure. Also shame. I spent one night in a cheap hostel in Bangkok. Couldn't afford anything nice anymore. Lay in a bunk bed in a room with 5 other backpackers, all of them young and excited about their adventures, and I felt ancient, hollowed out. The flight home was a blur. Perth never looked so good. The clean airport, the English signs, the familiar accents. My mum picked me up, didn't ask questions, just hugged me and drove me to her place. That was 3 months ago. I got my job back. Different site, same company. They didn't ask too many questions. Just glad to have an experienced worker back. I'm in a donga again. 2 weeks on, 1 week off. Full circle. The money hurts. 50,000 baht in daily expenses, plus the 200,000 for the fake house renovation. 250,000 baht total. About 11,000 Australian dollars. But I did the final accounting, and with flights and everything else, closer to 15,000 all up. That's nearly 20% of everything I'd saved, gone in 3 weeks. But the money isn't the worst part. The worst part is wondering what was real. Did Noi ever love me? Was there a moment, any moment, where she saw me as more than a solution? When she kissed me that first night on the beach in Pattaya, before money ever came up, was that real? I'll never know. And that might be the cruelest part. The uncertainty, the lack of closure. I've learned some things though. Hard things, expensive things. Love and culture are real, but so are scams that hide inside them. The line between being generous and being a mark is drawn with boundaries I didn't have. I wanted to believe so badly that I ignored every red flag, every warning sign, Every small voice in my head saying, slow down, think, protect yourself. The village poverty in Isan is real. Those people work hard and don't have much. But their poverty doesn't create an obligation for me to solve it. Being wealthy by their standards doesn't mean I owe them unlimited support. There's a difference between helping and being exploited. Noi might have started with real feelings. She might have convinced herself it was love, while also seeing me as the answer to her family's problems. Humans are complicated. We can hold two contradictory truths at the same time. She could have cared about me and used me simultaneously. Both things can be true. But the family, they saw me as a resource from day one. The feast that first night wasn't welcome. It was investment. Feeding me so I'd feel obligated. Every smile, every gesture of inclusion, every moment of fake warmth was calculated to keep the money flowing. I don't hate Thailand. I don't hate Thai people. I don't even hate Noi, not really. I hate my own desperation. My willingness to buy love because I didn't think I deserved it any other way. My inability to see that being alone is better than being used. Sometimes late at night in the donga, I think about her. Wonder what she's doing. If she tells the story of the Farang who promised her everything, then left. If she's already found someone new. If the family talked about me, probably not. Probably, I was just one in a line. One more stupid foreign man who thought he was special. The last thing I saw as the Songthayu pulled away from the village that final morning was those kids playing with the toys I'd bought. They waved, happy, innocent. They didn't know what had happened. They just knew the nice man was leaving. That image sticks with me. The only pure thing in the whole mess. Kids being kids. No agenda, no angle. Just joy. I keep that image close on the hard days. Reminds me that not everything was false. Not everything was calculated. Some small moments were real. Just not enough of them. And there it is. 3 weeks, $15,000. One more man who thought he could buy his way into belonging. Here's the thing about stories like Jake's. They're not really about bar girls or bar culture. They're about what happens when loneliness meets opportunity, when generosity meets desperation, when Western money meets developing world poverty. Was Noi a scammer from day one? Was her family manipulating her too? Did she convince herself it was love while also seeing Jake as the solution to her family's problems? We'll never know. And that's the cruelest part. Jake will spend years wondering which moments were real. The village family dynamic Jake walked into is real in many parts of rural Thailand. When a Thai woman brings home a foreign boyfriend, there's often an expectation that he'll contribute financially. In genuine relationships, this happens naturally, with boundaries, with mutual respect. But in situations like Jake's, it becomes weaponized. The culture card gets played every time someone wants to set a limit. 300,000 baht for a house renovation that never happened. That's the oldest play in the book. Promise something big in the future to justify the big payment now. By the time the victim realizes nothing's being built, they're already in too deep emotionally to just walk away without giving it one more chance. Jake's mistake wasn't falling in love with a Thai woman. His mistake was having no boundaries, no language skills, no cultural knowledge, and no support system. He was isolated, dependent on Noi for every translation, every explanation, every interpretation of what was happening around him. That's not a relationship. That's captivity with extra steps. If you're watching this and thinking about making a similar move, please don't let Jake's story scare you away from genuine cross-cultural love. It exists. It's beautiful. It's worth pursuing. But go slowly. Keep your financial boundaries. Learn the language so you're not dependent on one person's translation. Understand that taking care of family is admirable, but you're not an ATM with legs. You're a partner, and partnership requires mutual respect. Don't quit your job on month 8 of a long-distance relationship. Don't transfer huge amounts of money without receipts, contracts, clear agreements. Don't isolate yourself in a village where you're the only outsider and everyone else is blood-related. Don't mistake financial dependency for love. And if you're already in a situation like Jake's, where the requests never stop and the justification is always culture, always family, always just one more time, get out. You're not abandoning love. You're escaping exploitation. There's a difference, even if it doesn't feel like it in the moment. 3 weeks in Isan taught Jake more about himself than 3 years in the mines ever did. Expensive education, painful education. But he survived it. He's back in Perth, back at work, rebuilding his savings, rebuilding his sense of self-worth. He's smarter now, more cautious, more aware that being generous doesn't mean being stupid. The roosters still wake him up sometimes, in his head, the phantom sound of a life that never was. But he's learning to sleep through it. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Have you experienced the village family pressure, the endless requests justified by culture? How did you navigate it? Did you stay or did you leave? And if you found this valuable, subscribe for more stories from the intersection of love, money, and the land of smiles. Until next time, stay smart, stay skeptical, and stay safe out there.